The microphone felt cold in my hand, but my voice didn't shake. My name is Camila. I'm 28, and my brother thought I was giving a wedding toast. He didn't know my toast was a confession. Theirs, not mine. He didn't know that tucked in my purse was the proof they had stolen my $300,000 trust fund, the one meant to save my life from cancer, all to finance their perfect hollow world. As I looked at the sea of smiling faces, I was about to burn it all to the ground on a live stream. Before I share the rest of my story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever had to go above and beyond for family. Trust me, you're gonna want to hear what happens next. I sat in the oncologist's office, the air heavy with antiseptic and silence. The chair was too hard, the fluorescent lights too bright, and Dr. Nguyen's voice was too calm for the words she was saying. Sarcoma. Rare. Aggressive. The kind of cancer that doesn't negotiate. I stared at the pamphlet she slid across the desk, its glossy cover promising hope in neat bullet points. 15% chance with standard chemo. My stomach churned, not from fear, but from the sheer absurdity of percentages dictating my life. There's an experimental immunotherapy trial in Seattle, she said, her pen tapping the desk like a metronome. 70% remission rate. It's your best shot, Camila. I nodded, my hands twisting the strap of my bag. How much? She hesitated, her eyes softening. $200,000, it's not covered by insurance. The number hit like a punch. $200,000. I didn't have that kind of money. I was a freelance graphic designer, scraping by in Sacramento, my apartment a mess of sketchpads and coffee mugs. But there was the trust fund, Grandma's trust, set aside for life-altering emergencies. It was my lifeline, my only hope. That night, I drove to my parents' house in the suburbs, the kind of place with manicured lawns and neighbors who never waved. They were hosting a dinner for Ethan's engagement to Lauren Prescott, the golden couple of Napa's wine elite. The dining room was a blur of crystal glasses and my mother's laughter, sharp and performative. Ethan, my older brother, sat at the head of the table, all charm and perfect teeth, while Lauren glowed beside him, her diamond ring catching the chandelier light. I tried to speak, to tell them about the diagnosis, the trial, the trust. But every time I opened my mouth, Mom cut me off with talk of Lauren's dress or Dad rambled about market trends. Ethan was on his phone, muttering about logistics, his eyes avoiding mine. I felt like a ghost at my own family's table, my news shrinking smaller with every clink of silverware. Camila, you're so quiet tonight, Mom said, her smile tight. Everything okay? I swallowed, my throat dry. I need to talk about something important. Oh, honey, let's not dampen the mood, she said, waving a hand. This is Ethan and Lauren's night. I stared at my plate, the untouched salmon staring back. The hope I'd carried into that room, the belief that my family would rally around me, crumbled like ash. They didn't see me. They never had. I was the artistic one, the dreamer, the one who didn't fit their polished narrative. As I drove home, the city lights blurred through tears I refused to let fall. The diagnosis was a weight, but their indifference was a blade. I clung to the thought of the trust fund, my last tether to survival. The next week, I sat across from my parents in their pristine living room, the kind of place that felt more like a showroom than a home. I'd rehearsed my plea, my voice steady as I explained the trial, the cost, the 70% chance. I showed them the pamphlet, the doctor's letter, my hands trembling only slightly. Mom's lips pursed, her manicured nails tapping the armrest. Camila, this trust is for foundational things. Ethan's wedding, his business ventures, those are investments in the future. Investments? I echoed, my voice sharper than I meant. This is my life, Mom. Dad leaned forward, his glasses glinting. You've always been dramatic, Camila. There are affordable options. Chemo, right? You don't need some experimental pipe dream. I felt the air leave the room. Affordable options. As if my life was a budget line item they could negotiate down. I wanted to scream, to shake them, but I just sat there, my hands knotted in my lap. That night, I overheard Ethan in the hallway, his voice low and frantic on the phone. There's a shortfall, okay? A huge one. If we don't fix this, Lauren's dad will pull out. He stopped when he saw me, his face shifting to that easy smile he always wore. Hey Cam, you good? I nodded, but suspicion curled in my gut. A shortfall? For what? The wedding? Or something bigger? I went home, the question gnawing at me. Their refusal wasn't just neglect, it felt calculated, like I was a loose thread in their perfect plan. The days blurred. I started chemo, the kind that left me hollowed out, my body a battlefield of nausea and fatigue. My apartment became a prison, the walls closing in as I sold my design tablet, my camera, anything to cover the copays. My hair started falling out in clumps and I'd sweep it off the floor, my hands shaking. I'd always been the one who created sketches, logos, beauty from nothing. Now I was erasing myself. I called Mom one night, desperate, begging for just a fraction of the trust. "We can't, Camila," she said, her voice smooth as glass. "It's tied up, you understand." I didn't understand. I hung up, the phone slipping from my hand. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was personal. They'd chosen Ethan's future over mine, his wedding over my life. I lay on my couch, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I'd become so invisible to the people who were supposed to love me most. Chemo was a thief. It stole my strength, my hair, my appetite for life. I'd drag myself to the bathroom, gripping the sink, staring at a stranger in the mirror, pale, gaunt, with dark circles like bruises. My apartment smelled like antiseptic and despair, the silence broken only by the hum of the fridge or the occasional ping of my phone. Friends texted less often now, their "how are yous" fading into awkward silence. I didn't blame them. What do you say to someone who might not make it? One morning, a certified letter arrived, its crisp envelope a stark contrast to the chaos of my life. It was from the bank managing Grandma's trust. My heart raced as I tore it open. A fraud alert. A withdrawal of $300,000, more than the cost of my trial, had been made, flagged as suspicious. My signature was on the form, but I hadn't signed anything. I called the number listed, my voice hoarse from disuse. "This is Camila Collins. I got your letter about the trust." The man on the other end was David Miller, a fraud investigator. His voice was clipped, professional, like he'd seen 100 cases like mine. "Can you confirm you authorized a withdrawal of $300,000? "No," I said, my pulse hammering. "I didn't sign anything." He paused, the silence heavy. "This is serious, Miss Collins. Can you come to the bank?" I went, dragging my weakened body to the downtown office. David was younger than I'd expected, maybe mid-30s, with sharp eyes and a suit that looked like it had never seen a wrinkle. He showed me the withdrawal form, my name scrawled in a hand that wasn't mine but close enough to fool a busy clerk. "Who has access to the trust?" he asked, his pen poised over a notepad. "My parents, and my brother, Ethan." He didn't react, but his eyes narrowed slightly. "We'll need to dig deeper. I'll keep this discreet, but you should know, this kind of forgery is a felony." I nodded, my mind spinning. A felony. Someone in my family had stolen from me, had taken the one thing that could save my life. The weight of it crushed me, but it also lit something inside. A spark of anger, of purpose. I wasn't just a patient anymore. I was a victim, and I wasn't going down without a fight. Driving home, I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white. The betrayal was a living thing, clawing at my chest. But David's words echoed. "This is serious." For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. I felt awake. David Miller's office became my lifeline, a sterile haven of file cabinets and coffee stains where I could pretend I wasn't falling apart. My body ached from chemo, my scalp prickled under a scarf, but sitting across from him, I felt a flicker of control. He slid a folder toward me, his face unreadable. "The withdrawal form," he said. "Your signature's a forgery, a good one, but not perfect." I stared at the paper, my name scrawled in someone else's hand. It was like seeing a stranger wear my skin. "Who did this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. David leaned back, his chair creaking. "The funds went to an LLC called Pinnacle Ventures. It's vague, shell company vague. I traced the wire to a bank in the Caymans, but the trail's murky." I nodded, my mind racing. Pinnacle Ventures. It sounded like something Ethan would name, all flash and no substance. I thought of his frantic phone call, the shortfall he'd mentioned. My stomach twisted. "Can you keep digging?" "I will," he said, his eyes meeting mine. "But you need to be careful. Whoever did this isn't playing small." Back home I couldn't sleep. The chemo nausea was bad, but the betrayal was worse, a poison in my veins. I opened my laptop, my fingers trembling as I searched for Pinnacle Ventures. Nothing solid, just a generic website with stock photos and buzzwords. But I'm a designer, I know how to find what's hidden. I scoured online data caches, forums, anything that might hold a clue. Hours later, I found it, a digital shredder's oversight, a scanned document fragment from Pinnacle's records. My hands shook as I pieced it together using design software, but with my old skills a lifeline. The document was a contract, and the names hit like a gunshot. Ethan Collins, Lauren Prescott, and her father, Richard Prescott. Not for a wedding, for a real estate deal gone south. A luxury condo project in Napa that had collapsed under bad loans and worse decisions. My trust fund, my $300,000, was their bailout, funneled through a fake LLC to save their empire and their precious merger. The wedding was a smokescreen, a glittering distraction. I sat back, my breath shallow. My family hadn't just denied me, they'd stolen from me. They'd chosen their status, their legacy, over my life. The rage was cold, sharp, like a blade I could wield. I wasn't just fighting cancer anymore, I was fighting them. The rage kept me alive, a fire in my chest when my body wanted to quit. I couldn't do this alone though. I needed someone who'd believe me, someone who'd fight. That's when I called Chloe Martinez, my college friend turned investigative journalist. Her true crime podcast, The Price of Deceit, had millions of listeners, and she had a nose for blood in the water. I met her at a diner near my apartment, the kind with sticky tables and waitresses who called you Hon. I looked like hell, pale, scarf-wrapped, my hands clutching a coffee mug for warmth. Chloe didn't flinch. She listened as I spilled everything, the diagnosis, the trust, the forgery, the LLC. I showed her the reconstructed document, the names glaring like neon. "This is huge, Camila," she said, her eyes glinting with that reporter's hunger. "This isn't just a family betrayal, it's fraud, conspiracy, maybe even racketeering. We can blow this wide open." "How?" I asked, my voice cracking. "They're untouchable, the Prescotts, my parents. They're all in on it." Chloe grinned, leaning forward. "We don't just tell the story, we stage it. Their wedding's in 2 weeks, right? I'll pose as a videographer. My team will set up hidden cameras, mics, the works. You give a toast and we live stream it on the podcast. We expose them to the world." I stared at her, the plan sinking in. It was insane, but it was perfect. A public execution of their lies, broadcast to millions. "I'm in," I said, my heart pounding with something I hadn't felt in months. Purpose. Then came the bait. Mom called a few days later, her voice dripping with fake warmth. "Camila, we feel awful about everything. We want to help. We've freed up $10,000 from the trust for your expenses." 10,000. A crumb to keep me quiet. I played along, my voice soft, grateful. "Thank you, Mom. That means a lot." I even agreed to attend the wedding, letting them think I was broken, compliant. They had no idea I was sharpening a blade. Chloe and I spent days planning. I poured my energy into it, ignoring the chemo's drag on my body. We rehearsed my toast, mapped the venue, timed the live stream. For the first time I wasn't just surviving, I was fighting back. The betrayal had forged me into something new, something dangerous. I flew to Napa, my body weak but my resolve ironclad. The GoFundMe I'd started had scraped together enough for a decent dress and a wig that made me look almost like my old self. In the mirror, I was elegant, strong, a warrior in disguise. The vineyard wedding was a spectacle. Rows of roses, string lights, the kind of opulence that screamed money. I blended in, a ghost in their perfect world. The day before the wedding, Mom pulled me aside, her smile practiced. "I have something for you," she said, pressing a small silver locket into my hand. "From your grandmother, to remind you she's with you." I thanked her, my throat tight. Back in my hotel room, I held the locket, its weight oddly light. Curiosity gnawed at me. I pried it open with a hairpin, expecting a photo of Grandma. Instead, there was a folded slip of paper so tiny it could have been missed. My hands trembled as I unfolded it. It was a fragment of the forged withdrawal form, a handwritten note in the margin. "Make sure the original is destroyed. R can't connect this back to us. R. Robert, my father." The note linked him and the Prescotts directly to the fraud. They'd been careless, thinking a locket was safe, a sentimental trinket I'd never question. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. The universe had a sick sense of humor, handing me the key to their downfall. I called Chloe, my voice steady. "We've got them, hard evidence." She whooped through the phone. "This is it, Camila, tomorrow we end this." I barely slept, the locket clutched in my hand. The wedding loomed, a stage for their lies and my truth. I pictured their faces, Ethan's charm, Lauren's poise, my parents' smug control, crumbling under the weight of exposure. The fear was still there, but it was drowned out by something stronger: certainty. I was ready to burn their world down. The Napa vineyards sparkled under a twilight sky, string lights weaving through rose trellises, the air thick with perfume and champagne fizz. I stood at the edge of the reception, my navy dress clinging to my frame, the wig itching but holding firm. I felt like a stranger in my own skin, but my hands were steady, the locket tucked into my clutch like a loaded gun. Chloe's team was in place, cameras hidden in centerpieces, mics woven into the decor, the live stream ready to beam to her podcast's millions of listeners. The stage was set, the speeches droned on, each one a polished performance of love and legacy. Ethan and Lauren glowed at the head table, their smiles as perfect as the crystal flutes in their hands. My parents sat nearby, Mom's laughter too loud, Dad's posture stiff with control. They thought they'd won, that I was just the sick sister playing her. Then Ethan stood, his voice warm as he raised his glass. "I'd like to invite my brave, resilient sister, Camila, to say a few words." His eyes met mine, and for a split second I saw a flicker of unease. He knew I was a wild card, but he didn't know how wild. I took the microphone, my heart pounding but my voice clear. The crowd hushed, hundreds of eyes on me. "A marriage like a life is built on trust and sacrifice," I began, my words soft but deliberate. I congratulated Ethan and Lauren, let the moment linger, let them relax. Then my tone shifted, sharp as a blade. "But trust can be broken, and sacrifice, sometimes it's stolen." Gasps rippled through the room as I told my story. My diagnosis, the $200,000 trial, the trust fund that was my only hope. I described the $300,000 withdrawal, the forged signature, the LLC called Pinnacle Ventures. The crowd stirred, whispers rising like static. Lauren's smile froze. Ethan's hand tightened on his glass, and Mom's face went pale. Before security could move, I held up the locket, its silver glinting in the light. "And thanks to this thoughtful gift from my mother," I said, my voice steady, "I found the truth." Chloe's team flashed the incriminating note onto the screens behind the head table. A high-resolution image of the handwritten margin. "Make sure the original is destroyed. R can't connect this back to us." The room erupted. Guests gaped, phones came out, and Lauren's father bolted toward the exit, only to be stopped by Chloe's crew, who were filming every second. Ethan stood frozen, his charm shattered, while Mom's hand flew to her mouth, Dad's face a mask of fury. The livestream hummed, broadcasting their ruin to the world. I set the microphone down, my legs trembling but my heart soaring. I'd torn their facade to shreds, and it felt like breathing for the first time in months. The fallout was a wildfire. Chloe's podcast episode, The Inheritance of Scars, went viral overnight, racking up millions of downloads. Social media exploded with hashtags Camila Collins Trust Betrayal, turning my family's secrets into a public spectacle. The authorities moved fast, armed with David Miller's evidence and the locket's damning note. Ethan, Lauren, her father and mine faced fraud and conspiracy charges. The Prescott-Collins merger collapsed, their empires crumbling under lawsuits and shame. My GoFundMe, a quiet plea I'd started months ago, became a beacon. Strangers poured in donations, their messages flooding my inbox. "You're a fighter. Don't give up." By the end of the week, it hit $2 million, enough for the Seattle trial and more. I cried reading the comments, not from sadness but from the weight of being seen, truly seen, for the first time. I moved to Seattle for the immunotherapy, trading my Sacramento apartment for a small studio near Puget Sound. The treatment was grueling, fevers, aches, my body a battlefield, but the doctors were hopeful, and so was I. With the extra funds, I started the 70% Chance, a foundation to help others afford experimental treatments when insurance and families failed them. It wasn't just about money, it was about giving people a voice, a chance to fight. A year later, I stood on a pier overlooking the Sound, the water glinting under a gray sky. I was in remission, not cured. The cancer's still a shadow that might return. My wig was gone, my hair growing back in soft, uneven patches. I wore a simple jacket, the locket tucked in my pocket, a reminder of what I'd survived. I thought of my family, Ethan in court, Mom and Dad silent, their perfect world shattered. I didn't hate them anymore. The anger had burned out, leaving something quieter, stronger. I was alone, but not lonely. I'd built a new family. donors, patients' advocates, who saw me not as a victim but as a fighter. The wind stung my face as I turned toward the city, my next treatment waiting. I wasn't naive enough to think the fight was over, but I was ready. My life, the one they'd tried to steal, was mine now, every hard-won breath of victory. I walked forward, my steps steady, the horizon open and endless. The most important lesson from my ordeal is that family isn't always defined by blood. When my own parents turned their backs, a community of strangers lifted me up. My real family became the investigators, the journalists, and every single person who donated to my fight. If you feel abandoned by those who should love you most, look for your chosen family. Build your circle of support, and most importantly, be that support for someone else. Your compassion can be the lifeline that saves a person from drowning.